Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day. In this video I'll be showing you a pure 12 Shadow Magic Sorcerer build guide in Baldur's Gate 3. The Shadow Magic Sorcerer is one of my favorite new patch 8 subclasses because it is extremely powerful but also fun to play, and it has a great power spike all the way through the game, all the way up to level 11. So with this we'll be sticking with just a single class Shadow Magic Sorcerer, which gets Strength to the Grave. If you go down to 0 health you can stand back up with 1 health point, and you get Superior Dark Vision up to 24 meters. We get to choose 4 cantrips, and these are going to be pretty crucial for us. I like to take a mage hand because you can use this to throw health potions at your team or also water bottles, as dropping them is a free action. On top of this, if you're the face of the party, take friends. If not, we want to have something to explode items with, so Firebolt's a great choice. Ray of Frost is nice, but you can get a staff in Act 1 that allows you to cast that for free. I like Shocking Grasp if you need to get away, and Bone Chill because this will stop targets from receiving healing for a turn. For the spells, it's really good to have the shield spell. And we also want to get mage armor somehow. So you can take the spell here, but the sorcerer doesn't get that many spells. If you can find scrolls of it, that's ideal. And we're going to go with magic missile, so we have something for guaranteed damage. And for our ability scores, we're going to be built around charisma. And I think it's good to go with a high stat of either constitution or dexterity. For higher armor class and initiative, which I think the sorcerer really benefits from high initiative, it's probably best to go with high dexterity, because if we can go first, we can set down an ice spell or some form of crowd control. We get to cast 2 spells per turn, so that can be pretty good burst damage on the first turn, and makes it so that our other teammates don't get hit by some of those attacks. So this is my preferred stat spread. If you're the face of the party, make sure that you have the persuasion skill, and we'll roll with that. Once we hit level 2, if you want to take mage armor, now you can do that, or if you're finding you're fine by just using scrolls, that's cool too. Chromatic Orb can be nice because we get the Shadow Magic Hound at level 6, and we have to deal a specific elemental damage type to it to get sorcery points back. So this is a good cover all, or Thunderwave, because pushing people off of ledges is funny and powerful. Now for our meta magics, we're going to go with Distance Spell. We get a free version of this at level 11, which is really nice because it increases spells range by 50%. Huge. And then we also want to take Twin Spell because we can apply haste to ourselves, giving ourselves an extra action, allowing us to cast another spell, but then someone else on our team is going to get that extra action too. And if it's another spellcaster, that means they can cast an extra spell per turn, which is very strong. Haste from a sorcerer is very powerful. But level 3 is a huge power spike because we get our Eyes of the Darkness. This is the preferred concentration for us to hold because this gives us the ability to see in magical darkness, which most enemies can't. Only warlocks are able to see in magical darkness, and with a few specific items and a few different bosses in this game. But this blinds enemies. They can't attack really properly whenever there's darkness. It breaks line of sight, so if there's spellcasters and you hide out in darkness, you're safe. And if the enemy's trying to do like an arrow attack, it breaks line of sight. So it's very, very powerful. Some people don't like darkness, but the Shadow Magic Sorcerer is all about the Eyes of the Darkness, so you want to use that often. But at level 3, we also get another powerful ability with Quicken Spell, which is allowing us to do a bonus action spell. It's huge, really good. We also get level 2 spells at this point, so Scorching Ray, one of the best spells for a sorcerer early game. Hold Person being another good choice too. Shadow Blade doesn't fit here, but I love that spell. Misty Step and Mirror Image are also good ones for survivability's sake, but I think that's good as a sorcerer to have a damage option available really early on. Level 4 gives us another cantrip as well here, so we can take something like Minor Illusion's good to group enemies up because at next level we get Fireball. So this is actually a good point to take this because a good Fireball and multiple enemies at a time to start combat, pretty effective. Now I would recommend probably taking Misty Step until we get to level 11, then we can swap Misty Step off by replacing Spell because we need some form of teleportation survivability. We have darkness pockets that we want to jump back to if we somehow get displaced, so Misty Step's going to help out with that. I also like Hold Person. This spell is just extremely valuable to have because with this you can basically give your fighters free critical hits, but we have better concentrations like Darkness as mentioned. Now at level 4, our first feat, Alert, is really good. This basically means we can go first, and it's one of my favorites to take early game because if your sorcerer can go first, this means they can stop a drop down Ice Storm or some form of damage to take out a couple enemies before they get to take their action and potentially hurt your teammates. So it's actually really good to have the high initiative really early on in the game. But we can also go with a very powerful Warcaster, giving you advantage on saving throws to hold your concentration on darkness, and it gives you the reaction Shocking Grasp, so that gives you a little extra damage. Spell Sniper is nice too because this will give you Eldritch Blast, one of the best cantrips in the game, and with Eldritch Blast you also get increased critical hit chance. But I think that my personal preference is either Charisma increase for better spell casting, especially if you're the face of the party, or the alert feed, because going first I think is extremely powerful. As a sorcerer, being able to go first in pretty much every combat encounter, as the initiative die in Baldur's Gate 3 is a D4, if an enemy rolls the best possible roll, we just always go first with a +5. So this allows us to kind of wean ourselves off going higher in dexterity with gear, but you can still use the gloves of dexterity if you want on this build and pump more into your constitution. But level 5, this is another big power spike for this. So level 3 and then level 5, big power spikes. Counterspell is nice, but Fireball or Lightning Bolt. My personal preference is Lightning Bolt because it's really easy to set up water with either your Cleric casting Create Water or by using a water bottle from your Mage hand, doubling the damage. So that 48 damage becomes an 86, which is pretty great damage that you can put out. That becomes 96, my bad. That's quick damage and very powerful to have some form of vulnerability applied to the enemy. Cold and lightning damage spells are typically a little bit better than fire, and also fire is resisted often. But if you prefer Fireball, it's good too. Lightning Bolt, I just find, has better bang for its buck after many different playthroughs. Level 6 is another power spike, I should say. Hound of Ill Omen, which is now permanent instead of until long rest. So what you can do is if you have 3 sorcery points at the end of the day, summon your Hound. It's fine. What happens is then you're going to keep this until the next long rest, which it normally would take 3 sorcery points, so you're not going to be wasting them, and this will actually help you recover your sorcery points, so that is fantastic as well. Another thing I should mention about the dog quickly is that if it gets attacked in melee range without radiant damage, it'll splinter off into another dog, which can splinter off into another dog, and you actually have many dogs running around doing their umbral tangle, which can entangle enemies, or they'll also do their ominous bite, which will apply an omen on the enemy, which you can get sorcery points back with. Level 6 lets us take another spell, and I really like just to have counterspell. It's hard not to want something defensive here. Haste being another good choice, but as I mentioned, Shadow Magic Sorcerer's concentration typically wants to be on the Eyes of the Dark, although having a twinned haste can be good too. You run the risk of it breaking and then both your teammates losing the next turn. Level 7 is actually one of my favorite levels, and it's, I would say, another power spike for this because Ice Storm is so good. Ice and Darkness actually stack. There's a few surfaces that won't stack. Like, for example, fire will actually burn up smoke and magical darkness. It goes away. Ice can be placed on top of it, creating double difficult terrain, which is a pain for the enemy because they will slip and fall in the darkness and they can't see. You have advantage on your scorching rays against them for critical hits, and there's plenty of benefits of ice surfaces. I've been over them. And also, this is just a decent damage option too. This, if you can get your initiative to be first, which again with the alert feat we will, that will make it so that we can set up in difficult terrain for the enemy, and then their fighters can slip and fall and lose their turn. So it's actually turning the action economy in our favor pretty easily. Now the next spell that we could take, I like Confusion, but it's actually probably best to leave that alone. Go back and take Haste, Fireball, or Sleet Storm, which can stop enemies' concentrations. You could even go back even further and take Hold Person or Mirror Image, but it's hard not to want a Fireball. At this point, I think it's a good idea to put up a charisma point to 18 now. If you have the Hags here, you could have taken this up to 20 by now, which is ideal. But I think Alert brings more value to us earlier on in the game. Level 9 gives us another sorcery point and access to some really great spells again. We don't get Conjure Elementals, which is a big thing that the Wizard gets. So you could take a single level dip in the Wizard, learn them from scrolls, and use this Circlet of Intelligence. But we're just going to go with the Cone of Cold here because, hey, it's a great spell. High damage, doubled by water. Again, if you have your clerics or your mage hands throwing water bottles, pick up every water bottle, buy every water bottle. They're cheap, and you can just drop them as a free action. So I highly recommend doing that. Acid Splash, I guess. Again, we could take Franz or Ray of Frost. If you don't want to use the staff again, I have the Staff of Cherished Necromancy on my back there. But I like to have Hold Monster personally because Hold Person is a great spell. Again, we want other concentrations, but Hold Monster actually counters some of the bosses that are a little bit better into darkness. So this could be a good choice as well. If you have a team with a cleric that's got Hero's Feast, Cloud Kill can be nice because you can hide out in it and be fine. Your whole team won't get damaged. But Hold Monster, Insect Plague even, two good choices as well. And for the next meta magic that we can go with, Careful Spell can be good to keep our teammates safe if we happen to be in a bad situation. Silence can be nice because if you're silent, you're probably close range, and Cone of Cold can help out a lot. But I also like to go with something like the Heightened Spell or Extended Spell. It's personally your choice at this point, which you find most useful for your playstyle. I go with Careful Spell usually. But level 11 is the biggest power spike in my opinion because Shadow Walk is so good. This gives you basically the ability to teleport to any point and gives you Distance Spell, increasing your spell's range by 50%. It only works in darkness, but typically you want to teleport to your darkness cloud but it's actually really generous, which you'll see. It actually, if there's a tree shadow, it counts as darkness that you can teleport to. So look out for shadows and things like that. For our next leveled spell, we're going to take Chain Lightning, which is extremely powerful. And then we're also going to go ahead here and take off Misty Step, because you're not going to be using it because it takes a spell slot when we could actually save a spell slot for Scorching Ray and use our free teleport. I like to grab Globe of Invulnerability because this is just a very good spell in general. It's one of the most broken in the game. It protects your team from everything. So you can get that. I think it personally is a great spell. Level 12 means we get one more feat and we get to take another spell here. Go through the list. If there's one that you personally enjoy having, take it. I think Hold Person is a good choice if you want to have a concentration for humanoid enemies, and you can hold up to 5 enemies at a level 6 spell slot, which is fantastic. I also like to have Circle of Death sometimes if you got spells that proc radiating orbs, which doesn't fit thematically here, but you can hit this on multiple enemies at a time. Disintegrate kind of has some funny moments, but I like to just have the haste spell there, as mentioned previously. And for our feat here, you can go with another increase to your charisma. We already got the alert feat. You could go with even like taking medium armor proficiency. It's kind of a weird choice, but if you want to give yourself some extra armor, that can be a good choice. And you could even go with like the tough feat to give yourself additional health, which will give us 24 extra health points, which is actually a pretty good choice to go with. I also mentioned the Spell Sniper for Eldritch Blast, extra critical hit range. If you don't have shield proficiency, moderately armored is actually probably a good feat here that's underrated, because we don't have shield proficiency unless you play with a half elf or a human. So that could be good. And medium armor proficiency lets us use the armor of agility, which will actually give us a respectable armor class. I'm just going to go with the increase of charisma here, but those are some other good options too that may not get utilized as often. Also, the modded outfit I was wearing was this is from the Ethereal Threads mod, which is in the Baldur's Gate 3's mod manager. Now, as far as gear goes, we actually want to specialize in a few different areas. Now, I like to do a Fire, Ice, Lightning combo, and this is what I mean. So the Hat of Fire Acuity is possibly the best single hat in the game for boosting your Arcane Acuity. So you can get a plus 10 to your spellcasting DC, which right now we have a 19, so we can put that up to 29, which is massive. This means that all of our spells will basically hit. And this is coming from the Hat of Fire Acuity. A single Scorching Ray using an upcasted can give us this if we land all of our shots. It's massive, actually really good. You could also use the Birthright Hat or the Hood of the Weave, but this is only a plus 2 max. This gives us a plus 10, much better. I also like the Cloak Protection, bonus armor class is great, or the Deathstalker Mantle, because that can give you free crits on Scorching Ray. Robe of the Weave, plus 1 bonus to spell save DC, gives you health back on saves and plus 2 in armor class. As mentioned, you could go with the Armor Agility here if you took moderately armored, which is a nice choice, but you can also go with Mage Armor here, which will give us a boost to our overall survivability, so boom. Make sure you get a scroll of that. It can put up your armor class a little bit even further, which is nice. I like the Gloves of the Belligerent Skies here, which will apply Reverberation on Thunder, Lightning, or Radiant damage, which we're going to be doing often. Now, you could also go with the Daredevil Gloves or the Gemini Gloves for good earlier game damage options. And even as we go into the higher levels, you could even use something like the Wondrous Gloves to give yourself a plus 1 to AC, even though it gives you Bardic Inspiration. Still not a bad option for survivability's sake. The Gloves of Dexterity as well will give you increased armor class, allowing you to dump your Dexterity as well, which can be a nice option. But I like the Gloves of the Belligerent Skies because Reverberation, Prone, is really good. We want to crowd control a bit. Now, I guess I should have mentioned the Fire is the Hat of Fire Acuity. Ice is going to be the Snowburst Ring. So this will, whenever we deal cold damage, apply an ice surface below the enemy so they slip. And that's what we want the Disintegrating Nightwalker so that we don't slip. And it just gives us Misty Step. I guess that's not really super useful. So if you don't want to go with that, you could go with the option like the Helldust Boots. We can do a little bit of a fire explosion there, which is actually not a bad choice as well. And then for lightning, we got Marka Heshker, and we want to use the Kareska's Favor Bolts of Doom. This will give us lightning charges, which can actually shoot up a lot of extra damage onto our Scorching Rays. And with that, we're going to do a lot more damage. On top of that, it's going to give us a boost to our spellcasting, because then we get a free Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt spell that's behind my head here. And then also with that, we're going to use the Viconia's Walking Fortress to protect ourselves a little bit more. And then we're going to protection for additional armor class, taking it up to 23 and 25 with haste. And then we have the Hell Rider Longbow for that +3 to initiative. This means that we can likely go first before Cazador, because we're going to have a same bonus to our initiative equal to his. And we also got the Amulet of Greater Health here. Cazador being the highest initiative in the game. So having the ability to contest that is a really good thing, because for every encounter, we're likely going first, which you'll see here. Now, always make sure you have Nimbus summoned in before combat. He takes 3 sorcery points and a bonus action otherwise. And we want to set up for him. Now, there's a lot of spellcasters and ranged enemies here, so one of the best things you can actually do is drop a line of sight breaker like Darkness here. So This is going to be great because we can pop this down in an area that's going to block all visibility to our more sensitive members like our cleric here, and then they will be blinded so that we get advantage on our spells against them. I also recommend if you have a team running this to also apply the Steel Watcher helmet, because this will give you the ability to not be blinded, and the Eversight ring. If you go with an evil playthrough, the Shar Spear, the Knight, can also apply this. You can see here we have multiple enemies, and since we have the ability to not slip, what we can do is do our good old-fashioned double condition here and apply an Ice Storm in this area. And I guess I'm going to get I cast on myself, but we saved on it using our boots. This took out a couple enemies, but you see when I mouse over here, it says Darkness Ice. As mentioned, you can combine these two statuses together, and it's very powerful. Spellcasting plus Darkness is huge. Now we also get a bonus action spell, and that's where the Sorcerer is really crazy, because then we can go with a Quicken spell here, and then blast away with a Lightning Bolt, and I'll try to hit multiple targets if I can. This is the nice thing about Lightning Bolt is you can sometimes be really cheesy with it and hit like a ton of targets. We got 5 targets in this one. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. We'll go with that there. 5 target Lightning Bolt, and it didn't hit everybody, but it took out a couple of them actually. And then what we can do is just hide out in the middle of our darkness because we're immune to blindness. And then we want to get our dog there too. The enemy also acts weird here. They're just dashing because the ice surfaces actually scares them. And then on top of that, you have to be careful as your dog doesn't get the ability to not slip, but it's immune to being blinded. So you can get this. This is going to be a risky move. Yeah, it's slip prone. It happens, but it's safe in the darkness. But on the flip side, you also knock others prone, like that spellcaster. If they had a concentration, they would no longer have it. And that's why the Shadow Magic Sorcerer is so good. But the enemies are going to act weird because there's difficult terrain which scares them. They can throw through darkness, which is really messing up Shadowheart there. Geez. But on top of all of that, they can't do a melee attack or spellcast in here, so you're safe from command and hold person. And both of these actually missed my character, so some characters aren't really meant to be throwers, they just do it anyways. Counterspell, and this is exactly why I want to have Counterspell, it's just a really good spell in general to keep your entire team safe. That was not needed, but we could have. And now we have multiple targets here, which I think a good idea would be to get our spell save DC up, because it's currently 19 as mentioned. So what we can do is we can go with an upcasted version of Scorch, and right here we have advantage because we're attacking from darkness against some enemies here. So we want to go after a few that are just going to be a pain in the butt, like these 3 here. So I'm going to try and take them out. We'll go with our free crit there, and the lightning damage extra actually allowed us to take them all out. If we look at the combat log here, this would take a lot of time to scroll through all the extra damage, but yeah, it took out 2 targets. And with that, we now have our plus 10 to our Arcane Acuity, so a 29 spell save DC. This is what I meant about Sorcerer being good, especially if you can go first. Now, we have a few targets here. I'm going to go for this one here and hope that we can take out the rest of them. Yeah, it worked. Yeah, Shadow Magic Sorcerer, one of the most overpowered subclasses in the game, and one of the best level 12 classes, because getting this, actually, if we were in a worse position here, we could have Shadow Walked back to our darkness zone here, and we would have been good. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and we'll catch you all in the next video.